country that vows to annihilate us and is working every day with conventional means and unconventional means to achieve that end, if that country has a deal that paves its way to nuclear weapons, many nuclear weapons, it endangers our survival. I'll tell you what else will happen. I think it'll also spark an arms race with the Sunni states.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressing his discontent with the terms of the Iran nuclear deal. Welcome back to America's Forum. I'm Rick Blackwell. The Iran nuclear deal continues to spark distrust and concern, while Prime Minister Netanyahu insists that this is a bad deal. President Obama, however, claims it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but there are still several unanswered questions like, what is Iran giving up to seal the deal, and will it benefit in the long run? Now, joining us for more on this story, TV and news commentator Steve McPartland is joining us right here on the set. Steve, thanks so much. Also, we have Miranda Khan in the newsroom, Tim Constantine of the Tim Constantine Capitol Hill Show. Sounds like a great name, Tim. Liz Peek is the columnist for FoxNews.com and the Fiscal Times. Welcome to America's Forum. We've got some brilliant minds here, and let's get right to it, because every time I turned on the TV set, Steve, I saw the Prime Minister. Do you think that he was effective in talking to the American people?
Yeah, I know, he was very effective in talking to the American people, because he's right. This is going to open up a quagmire, a race, an arms race in the Middle East. The Saudis are in battle with the Iranians on one front. The Jordanians are now going to have to up their game in the nuclear race as well. And I don't think that benefits world peace, and it certainly doesn't benefit peace in the region at all to have everybody have the bomb. So he's right on that regard. The thing I'm most concerned with is that Iran does comply. Because if they do comply, and then we lift the sanctions from them, billions of dollars are going to flow into Iran. They are the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. What are they going to do with this money? They're not going to build golf courses with it. So that has me more concerned than almost anything else, is that they do comply, we lift the sanctions, and they become a far wealthier nation than they are. What are they going to do with the money?
Liz, what concerns you the most?
I think there are so many things left undone in this deal. Over the next 3 months, we're going to get a chance to see the particulars, and it's really in those particulars that Americans will have a chance to see whether this is an enforceable deal, what is required really of the Iranians. For example, President Obama is talking about how the inspection teams will be allowed to go anywhere they want. Iran has already said, no, that's not true. They won't be allowed to inspect military facilities, for example. Obviously, there's just a huge number of details absent from this agreement. And I thought in his interview with Tom Friedman over the weekend, President Obama sort of acknowledged that, but basically brushed them aside. I think it's totally true that this is a historic deal. It's also a once-in-a-lifetime deal for President Obama, and I think that raises distrust of his motivation here. What is President Obama after? He's after a legacy achievement. He has no other legacy achievement in the foreign policy arena, and he is desperate to exit with something he can call his own. So this is what he wants. Yes, it's not a terribly good deal. I think Netanyahu's completely correct on that. President Obama in 2012 said Iran had to get rid of, shut down their nuclear program. They are not shutting down their nuclear program. They're putting it on idle, and at any point they could rev it back up again, and we won't necessarily know about it. So, look, it's an extremely important thing to confront the Iranians on this. I don't think this deal really comes close to doing that.
Tim, I want to ask you, what is the strategy for congressional Republicans? What do they need to do in the coming months before this gets to a vote?
Well, despite the criticism, I think they've taken the right steps in going ahead when they issued their letter, when Boehner invited Netanyahu to the United States. I think you've got a media that tends to cater to the message of the president, and so you have to take some aggressive steps in order to get your message out if you think it's wrong. What was interesting this past week when the president was doing his victory lap with his framework is it wasn't only the Republicans that were expressing skepticism. The leading Democrats were concerned as well and spoke up and said so. So I think should they go and agree with a deal, then you're going to have Congress take an even more aggressive step and perhaps say, we do not endorse this deal. It'll be an interesting political gamut if they do that.
I want to ask you, Steve, in the short time that we have remaining, you said you're concerned that Iran will actually comply. So are you saying that there should be no deal whatsoever with Iran, ever?
Well, no, I'm not saying there should be no deal ever. I think before there should be a deal with Iran, though, that we would like to see them become a better actor on the world stage. And that's certainly something they have not done, and they haven't even shown an inclination to do it before. I would personally sit at a table with them. I would really prefer that they stop throughout their country gathering in squares yelling death to America. So until they do that, I see no point.
Interesting point, Steve. And we're going to keep the entire panel here through the break. We'll be coming right back. Another hat ready to enter the fray in the GOP race for the presidency.
In journalism, we have to accept that some mistakes will be made. This is a fundamental concept of liberty.
Right, but you have to own that then. You're giving documents with information you know could be harmful, which could get out there.
Yes.
Last week, Tonight host John Oliver there taking Edward Snowden to task for leaking sensitive government surveillance information. Welcome back to America's Forum. I'm Rick Blackwell filling in for J.D. Hayworth. Miranda Kahn is in the newsroom. We've got this fabulous panel sticking with us. Steve McPartland, Tim Constantine of the Tim Constantine Capitol Hill Show. Also Liz Peek, columnist for FoxNews.com and the Fiscal Times. And Steve, let's comment about that. We were talking about it on the break. It almost took a comedian to get the best answers from Edward Snowden. Brian Williams talked to Edward Snowden. I don't know if he got the same kind of answers that John Oliver got.
My initial reaction to hearing John Oliver interview Snowden was, oh boy, you know, a comedian is going to interview a newsmaker and people are going to think this is real news. And that worries me, because what Stewart has done was on The Daily Show is brilliant, but it's not real news. Well, he did a real newsman's job.
Yeah.
He got him to answer some very serious questions in a very direct manner, and we also know now that he really misses Hot Pockets, which is, you know, important to know about him. But you know, Oliver did a very good job with him last night.
Yeah, and admits that, you know, at some point, this information that was leaked could have put some people possibly in danger. And Tim, I want to know what your thoughts were of the Snowden interview.
Sure. First, all the credit in the world to John Oliver for asking and arranging. I think sometimes all you have to do is ask. And but I like the way he did it. It was almost disarming of Edward Snowden to have him doing the interview. He could throw in some humor. He could loosen up Snowden and then hit him with a serious question. And I think Steve's right. He did a great job.
Liz, what is your reaction?
I thought it was high time that someone actually put this guy in his place. And I agree, it was sort of wonderful that it was done with some humor and also a lot of vulgarity, which you guys didn't get into, in case anybody wants to actually look at that interview. It's pretty remarkable on that front. But look, I think our journalists in general have gotten so weak in terms of their interviewing, and particularly with people about contentious issues. This is a contentious issue. A lot of people think Edward Snowden is a traitor. I think he's a traitor. I think there were other ways to achieve what he wanted to achieve, or purportedly wanted to achieve, other than releasing a lot of documents which, as he pointed out last night, could be really harmful. So, you know, plaudits to him.
Steve, what was your reaction? Will this, as Liz was pointing out, she thinks he's a traitor. Will this change anyone's opinion of Snowden?
No, I don't think it's going to change anyone's opinion. I think if you're of the mind to think what he did was a heinous thing against his nation, then you're going to continue to believe that. And if you had more of an open mind about it, because he has stated all along that he never released any information that could actually harm someone, that could put any Americans in harm's way, you're going to continue to believe that. I don't think it changed anything. I think we're all much more impressed with John Oliver's performance last night than we are with the answers he got out of Snowden.
Will we be impressed with Rand Paul tomorrow? That's the question I'm posing to Tim Constantine. Another Republican's going to be entering the race. And Tim, the Washington Post did a really interesting article talking about, will Rand Paul kind of have to get away from those libertarian viewpoints to court the GOP? What's your thought process as far as Paul entering this race?
No, I think it's a big field for the Republicans, and I think part of the appeal for Rand Paul is that libertarian portion of him makes him real, makes him different than the other candidates. He will say things that the other candidates don't say. He meets with groups the other candidates don't traditionally meet with. He's gone and met with the black community. He's gone to Berkeley College. He's done things all of the Republicans should be doing. And I think where you have to take Rand Paul's candidacy very seriously, he has an organization on the ground in all 50 states. You can talk about an organization that Jeb Bush has, and that's really paid people. But you can talk about Rand Paul, and you look, and it's tough to find someone who, at this point, has a better structure in place.
Liz, what do you think? What are the biggest obstacles facing Rand Paul right now?
Well, I think the biggest obstacle is one that he has been confronting rather gingerly. I don't think people like his anti-war, anti-defense strategy or stance. I understand its historical origin, but as ISIS has become a real threat, as this president has been sort of weak-kneed in confronting our adversaries, I don't think Americans are ready to put someone in the Oval Office who is not pretty firm. And what's going to be really interesting, were it Rand Paul versus Hillary Clinton, for example, Hillary Clinton would really be the hawk in that matchup, and I think that would be a pretty peculiar place for a Republican to be. So I think Rand Paul has to kind of walk that back, and he's doing that. He's making appearances at military sites and so forth.
Well, another presidential contender, Lindsey Graham, actually took a shot at Rand Paul and said that Hillary Clinton would have done a better job getting an Iran deal than Rand Paul. Do you see a lot of infighting with Paul on some of these more anti-war feelings?
Well, I see a lot of infighting throughout the entire Republican field,
that's
because
true.
they're pretty much very diverse in regards to who they represent. Paul is the darling right now of the younger voter, and certainly the party would like to get more younger voters in. And then, of course, Cruz is your far-right Christian choice at this point. I'm more of a governor guy. I like Kasich, Jindal, Pataki, people like that.
Scott Walker, too. All right, we're going to come right back, and we're going to be talking about the attacks in Kenya. A lot of Christians have been targeted. I want to thank our fabulous